Our presentation will cover an overview of cold water corals. Cold water corals are also known as azooxanthellate corals, as they lack the phytoplankton symbionts that define their more familiar tropical versions. Early cold water coral records date back to Linnaeus and the Challenger expedition, but scientific knowledge of these animals has expanded dramatically in the last few decades alongside both commercial interest in the open ocean and the use of new technologies such as sonar and submersibles. Almost everything you know about the biology of corals also applies to cold water corals. They exist only in polyp form. They can be either solitary or reef building, and they can reproduce sexually or asexually. As the stats at the bottom suggest, cold water corals are also remarkably diverse, and individual reefs can be very productive and resilient.
While both coral types, warm water and cold water, are crucial to their ecosystems, they function in different ways. The surfaces of warm coral are colonized by specialized algae called zooxanthellae, and the coral receive nutrients from excess produced by the algae. Cold water coral directly take in particles from the water column, leaving them susceptible to microplastics. Additionally, they may be colonized by bacteria instead of algae.
Naturally, cold water coral reefs are harder to locate than their tropical cousins, and in many parts of the world ocean, this has led to an almost complete lack of observations. Fortunately, efforts to map the seabed with sonar are helping to change that. Computer models, such as the one you see on the right, are also getting really good at taking the limited data that does exist and using it to predict where other reefs could be found. So, what do we know about their distribution? They're found from the North Pole to the south, and from near the surface all the way down to the abyssal plains. They obviously outcompete tropical corals in cold and dark water, so think below 15 degrees Celsius or 50 meters deep. They require high oxygen levels for respiration, high aragonite levels for reef formation, and a consistent food supply, which can either come from deep water currents or precipitation from the surface layer. Importantly, they also prefer a rocky substrate for new polyps to latch onto, which is why most reefs are found around features such as seamounts or rugged parts of the continental shelf and slope. New finds are also being made all the time. Earlier this year, a mapping effort led by the NOAA revealed the largest contiguous area of cold water coral reefs known to date. You can see the results of the terrain modeling at the bottom right. These reefs stretch from Charleston, South Carolina in the north down to Miami and cover an area over the size of Vermont. Interestingly, the researchers determined that these corals have been growing here for over 45,000 years.
Deep-sea corals provide many benefits to other deep-sea animals in the form of habitat. Many animals utilize deep-sea corals as a habitat, including sponges, anemones, fish, mollusks, and crustaceans. In fact, 3 times more life is found on deep-sea corals than the surrounding areas. In addition to habitat, deep-sea corals act as a form of protection for many animals, including crabs, shrimp, and rockfish. Deep-sea corals also have commercial benefits. Some anecdotal evidence from sources such as fishermen posit that deep-sea corals are important for fisheries. This is supported by evidence that deep-sea corals provide breeding and spawning areas to many fish and shellfish species, indicating that deep-sea corals can positively influence fish distributions in an area.
Bottom trawling is currently the biggest manageable threat to cold water corals. Trawling can directly kill corals by crushing, ripping, and burying them, or indirectly killing them by leaving the corals heavily damaged and more susceptible to disease. It was estimated that in Alaska, more than 1 million pounds of corals were removed by trawling annually from 1997 to 1999. Cold water corals are believed to have a much slower recovery from this trawling due to their slow growth rates. There are 2 main ideas for how to better protect these corals. The first is to limit or entirely prohibit trawling in areas where the cold water corals are found. The second is to start restoration projects similar to those that are done for warm water corals, where artificial reef structures are introduced in these areas to assist in larval settlement and growth. These are our citations. Thank you for watching.